Hello, FlossTube Stitchers. This is Shelly at Just Stitching Inc. in Strongsville, Ohio, or as Gary from Sunshine Stitchers calls us, Just Stitching Ohio. When he travels, he likes to find the local needlework shops and spend some time there, increasing his stash or stitching at the open stitch groups, getting into trouble. No, just kidding. But he says he can never remember the city name, so he just refers to the place as the name of the needlework shop. So we're now Just Stitching Ohio. I love it. I'm calling video number 8 MAYnia Withdrawal because the end of the month is coming already and I have mixed feelings about it. I'm a little sad to see my first Stitch Mania come to an end. It's really given me some great stitching habits that I hope will continue. I have found time each day to stitch when at the beginning of the day I might think there would be no time. I was almost forcing myself. Maybe I wasn't exercising or walking the dog as much as I should. Maybe I didn't make dinner as often as I should, but somehow I managed to fit all this stitching in. But on the other hand, I loved all of my projects so much that I can't wait until June so that I can go back and work on them and get some more finishes. So it is what it is. Today, I'm sitting in front of some of our seasonal racks. So we have Christmas here, Halloween right behind me, and then the third rack over there started off as a greeting card rack, so it has smaller charts and kits on it. And since Christmas and Halloween are two of the most popular themes that we sell, they needed racks devoted specifically to them. So let's get right into my Stitch Mania. On day 19, which was last Sunday, I worked on Primitive Santa from Teresa Kogut, and I have some really big plans for him. I want to do his beard in Whisper, add a three-dimensional button carrot nose to the snowman, put some real wool in with the stitched pennies along the border, use a fiber like fuzzy stuff or Arctic rays for that spindly little tree, maybe beads on the end of the branches to represent the berries, a tin star or a button or a charm at the top. So there are lots of choices that could be made, and I thought it would make a great stitch along for the month of July. I'm not really sure how I'm going to do it yet. I know you hashtag it, but I'm not sure how to present it in the first place so that people can find it. I could do a Facebook event and have people follow along and comment there, but I know not everybody is on Facebook anymore. They've kind of moved on to Instagram. So if anyone has any suggestions, they can private message me. I will have multiple fabrics available, not just what I'm working on, in case you'd rather use Even Weave or Aida. So I'm using 32 Cocoa from Weeks Dye Works. It called for Mocha, but I thought the Cocoa was close enough. And I'm using the called for Valdani. Look at that cool variation in color. I know it's not a traditional Christmas red, but it's absolutely perfect for a primitive. And this is what I have stitched so far. I don't know if you can see, but there are rounded edges to the stitches all around the hat and the clothing that were created using 3/4 stitches. And I wanted to talk about that for a few minutes because this chart was an example of many charts where the designer assumes you're going to understand something without them providing diagrams or instructions. And in this case, there was just a smaller symbol right next to the full symbols, which I took to be 3/4, but it was worth talking about. So I have this teaching board here, and here's a couple examples of how to do a 3/4 stitch. So imagine that this is a square on the graph paper. Pay no attention to the lines or the hole in the center. This is just one square on your graph. The designer would have put the symbol right here in this quadrant. She could have put it anywhere, but she put it right here. Well, I've had a lot of people ask me, do they make a full stitch in that area, or how do they actually make that 3/4 stitch? So in this case, the symbol's here. You're going to bring your thread up from the corner and go to the center. If it's Aida, you're going to pierce that square. If it's linen, there's going to be a hole ready for you. So this is the 1/4 stitch. To make a 3/4, you're going to do the 1/2 stitch using the same color and the same number of strands, and that creates the 3/4, the 1/4 plus the 1/2. As you can see, it's 3/4 of the whole square. So the name of the stitch really means something. On this one, the 1/2 stitch is just going over the hole. On this one over here, you don't see this too often, but it can give a really nice curve to something, so think about this when you're deciding. In this case, you run the 1/2 stitch underneath the 1/4, so it doesn't lay flat, it lays kind of in a curve. So that's a cool thing to do. This is another example of a 3/4 stitch where the 3/4 are done all the same, but then there's possibly a back stitch that doesn't follow the lines exactly. The back stitch is most likely done in a different color. And for that example, consider the precious moments, girls and boys. So of course the designer, Pat Carson of Glory and Pat, needs to make the design as close to the original artwork as possible. So when you're doing a face, for example, she's going to fill it in with all those 3/4 stitches, but the definition comes from the back stitching. And that does not have to look squared off. It can look more curved by her making the stitch follow different lines, not the same lines as a 3/4 stitch. So I don't know if you understand what I'm talking about. I couldn't come up with a good picture to show you, but a lot of times when things are based on original artwork, you can take some liberties with the stitches to get it to look right. So that's that. When I did the run through for time, I found that I probably could have talked for 10 minutes just on what 1/4, 1/2, and 3/4 stitches mean. So maybe I'll do a demo. I don't know if tutorial is the right word, but maybe a little demo or have a little discussion about the differences between those stitches and what they really mean in a future video after Stitch Mania is over. All right, I'll put that out of the way. And I showed you that. Okay, day 20, I worked on Where There Are Bees from Prairie Schooler on 32 count antique white Lugana, and it only calls for 4 colors of DMC, which Prairie Schooler is known for, sticking to DMC, and I decided to change it out to Weeks Dye Works. I know you can't tell yet. That's what I did so far, just the center area, and that's in charcoal. And I think when it's done, you'll be able to see some variation. Day 21. Oh, see, you knew you'd see this again, right? I chose the pumpkin from the Swirls book, September, October, from Fireside Originals, because in my stash, I had this most awesome piece of green. I think it's Pampas from Picture This Plus. It actually was twice as big, so I cut it in half. And the other half, I could do the Christmas stocking and orient it this way. I just tweaked the Weeks Dye Works colors a little bit to better go on my fabric choice. Day 22, I worked on If the Shoe Fits from Cross Stitch Wonders, based on licensed artwork by Sanquinetti Designs. And I thought that since it's so simple with just the 3 colors and big expanses of color, that I would do the purple front of the boot in metallic. So I'm working it on the Fabric Flare 28 count purple dot. I don't know if you can tell, but there's a silver sparkle running through the fabric. That's the front of the boot. And I'm working it with 1 strand each of Anchor 101 purple and Petite Treasure Braid PH09. I tried just 1 strand of the treasure braid and I didn't like the coverage, so I started over again with the Anchor. And I'm using mascara for the boot. I know people say that's just black, but I think with such a big area of color, you'll be able to tell at the end. It won't look as flat with the overdyed. On day 23, I worked on There's Probably Dog Hair on that from the Scarlet House. Originally done as a pincushion on 40 count linen, but I chose to go a different way. I'm using the 32 count I forget what it's called, Barnwood check, I think, from Zweigart. It also comes in gray check. So if you wanted to do the cat version of that, there's a gray cat in the pin set, and so it would be appropriate to use the gray check fabric. This is the pin set, but they also make a lot of other buttons. There's the heart and the dog bone. So I'm going to embellish it with something. I'm not sure what. I may change my mind and just use the Puntini set of buttons. It really depends on how I decide to finish it or how big it looks when I finish stitching it, because it's a lot bigger than the original pincushion would have been. But either way, I think it's going to be a really fun piece. I could have done either the cat or the dog because my new Cavalier King Charles Spaniel sheds like a cat. I'll show you a picture some other time. All right, on day 24, I worked on this rabbit from Duo Lapin from Collection Tra La La. I chose it for that day because I didn't have a whole lot of time to stitch, and I only had one color, so that was the perfect day to do this. I'm using 28 count Bramble Lugana from Picture This Plus, and the green stem and leaves is Baby Spinach from the Gentle Art. Most of the rest of the colors are Les Filles Atelier from France, and I did reach out to her a couple weeks ago and she was out of town. So I'm just placing the order this coming week. And I could have subbed them out for other overdyes, but we carry a lot of Collection Tra La La, and she does frequently use those fibers, and you can use the same fiber on multiple charts, so I thought it was worth it to order from them. All right, and day 25, I didn't do it on purpose, but it's Christmas. I did Cookies for Santa. Originally, Val Stuff called for 14 count brown perforated paper, which I have no problem with. I've stitched on many a piece of paper in my day, but I decided to use Vintage Country Mocha 14 count Aida. And that's how much I got done so far. I did work on him 2 different days. And look at the giant chocolate chip cookie button from Jabco. Somehow I'm going to work that into the finishing presentation. Maybe that will be instead of a covered button, like with a bow or something. So I'm excited about that. I just changed out the cat color to charcoal because that's what I had handy. All right, so that's that. I don't know what I'm working on tonight. I have a couple things put aside that I need to make a final decision on fabric. And then I'll choose something for tonight. And I think we're to the point of the giveaway. So for the 3 yellow Ziploc bags from Yarn Tree, I pulled this name, Terry Hollingsworth. She's a local customer. I just saw her the other day, so I won't have to mail that. And I wanted to show you that today I pulled the names out of a Starbucks bag. So I decided that for next week's giveaway, you'll get C is for Coffee from Heartstring Samplery's Alphabet Series, plus a set of her coffee stickers. These are designs that she's done with a coffee motif, and you could put these on the back of your pieces. You could scrapbook with them. You could seal the back of an envelope with them, whatever your heart's desire, but there's a number of different ones you can use. So this is a coffee theme, and all you have to do is tell me how you drink your coffee if you'd like to be included in this week's giveaway. I'm not really a coffee drinker. My parents always took big thermoses of coffee on long car trips to visit our grandparents in Pennsylvania and West Virginia. And I really didn't care for the smell of it. So when I got to college and all my friends were drinking coffee, I drank Pepsi to stay awake at night when I was studying. Now I've gotten hooked on frozen coffees. I can't drink a milkshake. It has to be a frozen coffee. So that's a weird adulting thing. And then at Ladies Latte once a month at church, they have really awesome hand roasted coffee with all the fixings, different kinds of sugar, flavorings, flavored creamers. And so you can make yourself a fancy coffee. So those are really the only two ways that I drink coffee. But tell me how you drink yours and I'll enter you into the drawing. And then the only other thing I wanted to show you was, I didn't refresh it, so now it's gonna make me, here we go. I wanted to remind you of the Rovaris class on Sunday, July 7th. Both Livia and Paola will be here. And if you can't make the class on that afternoon, you could come the day before, Saturday the 6th. If you're in town visiting relatives, or if you're local, or if you want to take an extra day off around the holiday and make a weekend of it, that would be fun. But they're going to set up their trunk show in the morning, and then in the afternoon on Saturday, they'll be here to talk to you about their designs, and we'll sell you some charts if you want, and it'll just be really fun to get to know them. And we don't always have those opportunities to have the designers from overseas, so this is great that we got to have them here. I think I covered everything, so thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing. I'm glad you're liking the tips. Have a great week, everyone. Bye.